Coming straight at you from deepest, darkest East Texas. This is the Tony DeGonia podcast. So find you a spot where you get good signal, grab you some sweet iced tea, turn up your headset, because we're jumping in with both feet to the Tony DeGonia podcast. Welcome to the Tony DeGonia Show. This is episode number 10. CyberSimplifed episode number 4 of 6. I told you guys we were going to do 6 of these, and we are. I put out a call this week for, some ideas. And I got one user that came back to me and gave me some great ideas on physical security and things like that, but it just didn't quite fit the cybersecurity theme that we've been working on. Because right now we're working on cyber attacks and working through that. So while I greatly appreciate the feedback that I got, we're going to use some of that stuff in the future upcoming podcasts that we do. I'm looking up the name of that user right now because there's just I get so many messages since I've started doing these podcasts. It's been unreal, and I absolutely love it. I think it's great that folks are listening, and everything. The gentleman's name was Jason. I'm not sure. I'm probably going to mess this up, Jason, so forgive me. Jason Boyge. I'm just not 100% sure how to pronounce your last name, so I do apologize on that. We'll get a little more information. Jason is the sales manager out of Western Canada and the Pacific Northwest for SoftDB, acoustics and vibration experts. He lives out of the Vancouver, Canada area. And so, Jason, we do appreciate you helping us out. And keep coming with the great ideas. I hope that other people will throw in some ideas as well. Jason's ideas, podcast ideas, were Facebook data and misinformation, the Cambridge Analytica, the Russian election scandal, hike vision cameras in the USA, and implications of them being owned by the Chinese government, which that is definitely going to be a podcast a little later down the road when I get into physical security. I've got a bunch of physical security stuff that I'm going to do there. And there's a lot of stuff around Hike Vision. I think they're a good company in the U.S., but I think there's some corruption that anyway, we'll discuss all of that at another time. But he says, good luck with whatever you decide. And so, Jason, like I said, thanks, buddy. I really appreciate the input, and I will be using some of that stuff. I also offered, when I used some of his ideas, to be one of the co-hosts or an interviewee, and he declined, said he was not very good behind the mic. Well, listen, you know what, buddy? There's nothing to do but just do it. I have a voice for silence and a face for radio. So, it didn't, It ain't like I have any supernatural talent that makes me fit for doing what I'm doing. I'm just doing it because I love it. I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. And I believe in what I'm doing, trying to bring information to folks that need it in a way that they need it, not just how a certain industry feeds information to people. I don't write a lot of this stuff. I don't make any of it up. It's crazy. And you know what? Let me tell you guys something. I don't get paid for a dime of it. I spend my own time, my own resources. I spend my own money for my own computers. I have a cheap headset and a cheap computer that I do this with, and I buy Adobe Audition on a monthly basis because I love that application. I went to graphic design school when I was a lot younger, and so I just put all that stuff together. It's just me. There's no big staff. I don't have a producer or director or anybody like that. At least not yet. Maybe someday. But I just do what I do, and I do all the jobs, because I'm just starting out, and it's a lot of fun because I enjoy doing a lot of this stuff. And I think it's going to grow. I think it's going to grow a lot. But just like anything else, when you have a startup, when you have a business you want to build, you start with what you have and you build it from there, and you just keep going. I know at some point, somebody might take an interest in this podcast and maybe want to put some money to it. If they do, as long as I don't have to give up, too much control, as long as the deal's right, as long as we can continue to offer help to people that need help, then, I might work a deal with them. If they want to come in and change the idea of the show, the mantra, the meaning of the show, then no deal, man. I don't need money to do this a whole lot. I've got most of it figured out. I do the whole show on less than, say, $30 a month. Less than $50 a month. Except for the time, and if I need to, I can always do less shows. So it is what it is. But the big thing is do you guys enjoy it? Do you guys get something out of it? And if you do, then it's worth every penny and it's worth every minute of time that I put into it. If you don't, if you want to hear something else, if you want to do something else, if you don't like what I'm doing, tell me. I don't have to do it. I do it because I like it and because I want to be helpful. So it's truly an altruistic. It's an altruistic deal for me. I do this because I make a difference. And so, with that being said, we're going to move on in our podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Amazon Web Services. No, it's not really. I don't have any sponsors, but it is about Amazon Web Services. And so what makes it really interesting is that Amazon Web Services yesterday, of all days, excuse me about that, their Route 53 got hijacked. AWS Route 53 service gets hijacked. Now that's crazy. We're talking Amazon Web Services, the largest, most versatile, the original, cloud service in the market, they just get hijacked all of a sudden. And for those of you who don't know what Route 53 is, Route 53 is Amazon's DNS service. DNS stands for Dynamic Name Service. So what it essentially does is instead of you having to remember that, you want to go to a particular website, www.website.com. If we didn't have DNS, you'd have to remember 134.127.26.24 for that particular website. So what DNS does is it makes it really easy for you, www.website.com. And so AWS has one of the largest DNS backbones on the internet. Now, when you start getting that large, at the ISP carrier level and at the data center level, which is where they're at, there's a routing protocol called BGP, or Border Gateway Protocol. And so what it does is Border Gateway Protocol, just to make a really complex protocol as simple as possible for those of you out there who are not techie people. Border Gateway Protocol essentially takes a huge number of routes, it's kind of like a great big internet highway. It takes all these routes and it knows how to get down side streets and back around, the whoop around and, which farm to market road to get down to the farm, all of that stuff, right? It takes all that information and it passes it on from one ISP and one data center router to another so that this information is propagated all across the internet. So that when you're sitting at your house or at your business and you want to go to www.yahoo.com and you're in Texas and yahoo.com is in California, it knows exactly what route to get you there. Now, if you've ever done what they call a trace route on your computer, if you're a non-user, this is really fun to do because then you realize just how far it is and how fast the internet is. If you open up your computer and you push the little circle down there at the bottom of your Windows 10 machine, and then you type in CMD for command, you'll have a little black box that pops up. When that little black box pops up, you type in trace, TRACERT, space, right? Just push the space bar and then type in yahoo.com. And what's going to happen is you're going to see all these, what they call hops. Hop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it'll come back and it'll say over 30 hops or something to that effect, to get to the destination. But you'll see where that, what they call ICMP packet or ping packet, leaves your computer and goes to your router and then goes to your internet router and then goes to the carrier and then goes to the carrier's interconnection carrier and then on out into the internet, the ethos, if you will. And it'll show you, where that packet, all the places it has to go just to get to yahoo.com. So that's what was hijacked when Route 53 was hijacked. Now, here's the deal, and I'm going to read you guys a couple of 2 or 3 articles because they were just written yesterday, and I don't know if anybody's seen them. But the first article actually comes from Ars Technica and is written by a gentleman by the name of Dan Gooden, 4/24/2018 at 2 p.m. yesterday. The article's titled "Suspicious Event Hijacks Amazon Traffic for 2 Hours and Steals Cryptocurrency." Almost 1,300 addresses for Amazon Route 53 rerouted for 2 hours. Now, 1,300 addresses is just a tiny subset of what Amazon processes on their Route 53. They process a couple of million IP addresses through there. So understand that's just a little bitty piece of what they actually do. So it's not like the entire Route 53 was hijacked. This was like pinpoint, pinprick type stuff. But there was a reason why they did it that way. So Amazon lost control of a small number of its cloud services IP addresses for 2 hours on Tuesday morning when hackers exploited a known internet protocol weakness that let them redirect traffic to rogue destinations. By subverting Amazon's domain resolution service, the attackers masqueraded as cryptocurrency website myetherwallet.com and stole about $150,000 in digital coins from unwitting end users. They may have targeted other Amazon customers as well. That's not known for sure yet. The incident, which started around 6 a.m. California time, hijacked roughly 1,300 IP addresses. Oracle-owned Internet Intelligence said on Twitter. The malicious redirection was caused by fraudulent routes that were announced by Columbus, Ohio-based eNet, a large internet service provider that is referred to as Autonomous System 10297. Now, that's something else to understand. When you start routing at BGP levels, the internet becomes so large that those routers route via autonomous numbers. And those autonomous numbers are something like 10297 or 110.548. And the reason they do that is because it's too large for an actual IP address to route that traffic. So they use that numbering system for the routers that are at the very, very core of the internet. That's the one thing I think most people will learn about today. Anyway, once in place, the eNet announcement caused Hurricane Electric and possibly Hurricane Electric customers and other eNet peers to send traffic over the same unauthorized routes. The 1,300 addresses belong to Route 53, Amazon's domain name system service. In a statement, Amazon wrote, "Neither AWS nor Amazon Route 53 were hacked or compromised. An upstream internet service provider was compromised by a malicious actor who then used that provider to announce a subset of Route 53 IP addresses to other networks with whom this ISP was peered. These peered networks, unaware of the issue, accepted those announcements and incorrectly directed a small percentage of traffic for a single customer's domain to the malicious copy of that domain. eNet officials did not immediately respond to a request for comment." Now, let's break that down for just 1 second. There's been a common theme amongst every stinking podcasts that I've done. And that theme has been larger entities being targets that are attacked through smaller sub-targets, just like with the target attack, just like with the Delta hack that we talked about on Monday. Everything we've talked about so far has been the similar situation, except for Stuxnet on our first podcast. So this whole thing was perpetrated through a smaller carrier, a smaller organization that had access to Route 53. Not just access, but the ability to push those updates that caused it to reroute that traffic. It's kind of genius, really. It's illegal and it's wrong, but it's still you've got to give credit where credit's due on how intelligent it was. Okay. The highly suspicious event is the latest to involve Border Gateway Protocol, the technical specification that network operators use to exchange large chunks of internet data. Despite its crucial function in directing wholesale amounts of data, BGP still largely relies on the internet equivalent of word of mouth from participants who are presumed to be trustworthy. Organizations such as Amazon, whose traffic is hijacked, currently have no effective technical means to prevent such attacks. Now, I don't think that should have been put into the article, because what's going to happen is you're going to have these amateur hackers out there trying to hack away at this, trying to mimic what these other folks have done, who obviously have been doing this for a long time and are pretty good at it. And so I'm going to hate to see the end result. What's going to wind up happening is you're going to have a bunch of hacks. And I mean hacks as in, pardon my French, dumbasses that don't know what the hell they're doing, out there trying to pull off, one of these attacks, and it's going to screw up a lot of stuff on the internet, and then it's going to cause change, and it's going to cause government oversight on certain things that we have a lot of freedom on right now that we didn't have government oversight on before. In 2013, malicious hackers repeatedly hijacked massive chunks of internet traffic in what was likely a test run. On 2 occasions last year, traffic to and from major U.S. companies was suspiciously and intentionally routed through Russian service providers. Traffic for Visa, MasterCard, and Symantec, among others, were rerouted in the first incident in April, while Google, Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft traffic was affected in a separate BGP event about 8 months later. Tuesday's event may also have ties to Russia because my Ether wallet traffic was redirected to a server in that country. Security researcher Kevin Beaumont said in a blog post, and there's a link to the blog post on my website, TonyDeGonia.com. The redirection came by rerouting traffic intended for Amazon's domain name system resolvers to a server hosted in Chicago by Equinix that performed a man-in-the-middle attack. My Ether wallet officials said the hijacking was used to send users to a phishing site. Participants in this cryptocurrency forum appeared to discuss the scam site, and there's a link to the cryptocurrency forum that they're talking about in the article that's written on my page. In a statement, Equinix officials wrote, the server used in this incident was not an Equinix server, but rather customer equipment deployed at one of our Chicago IBX data centers. Equinix is in the primary business of providing space, power, and a secure, interconnected environment for our more than 9,800 customers inside 200 data centers around the world. We generally do not have visibility or control over what our customers or customers of our customers do with their equipment. The attackers managed to steal about $150,000 of currency from my Ether wallet users, most likely because the phishing site used a fake HTTPS certificate that would have required end users to click through a browser warning. Still, Beaumont reported, the attacker wallet already contained about $17 million in digital coins, an indication the people responsible for the attack had significant resources prior to carrying out Tuesday's hack. And then there is a picture of the certificate saying that the CA Route certificate is not trusted. To enable trust, install the certificate on the Trusted Route Certification Authority store. At some point, I may have to do a podcast or a video cast on certificates to help explain these and break them down for you guys a little bit. Right now, the best I can say is a secure website has a certificate that's associated with it, and if it is truly a secure certificate, then you'll never see anything like that. If it's not, then you'll get alerts like that that'll pop up, and you'll have a red X on your browser instead of the little green lock that's on your browser when you're on a secure website. So just understand, if you get the red X and you get this popped up, unless you know without a doubt for a fact that the website's safe. For example, I get this sometimes when I'm doing websites because I haven't finished with the website, so everything's not squared away with the certificate yet. Well, I know the website's safe because I was working on it, right? Unless you know for a fact, don't go there. Because more than likely, horrible things are going to happen to your computer, your personal life, your bank account. You'll get STDs, viruses. You'll date ugly girls. Girls, you guys will be stuck with ugly fat guys. It's just terrible. You don't want to go there. It's just a bad deal. Anyway, the small return when compared to the resources and difficulty of carrying out the attack is leading speculation that my Ether wallet wasn't the only target. Mounting an attack of this scale requires BGP routers and major ISPs and real computing resources to deal with so much DNS traffic, Beaumont wrote. It's seemingly unlikely that myetherwallet.com was the only target when they had such levels of access. Another theory is that Tuesday's hijacking was yet another test run. Whatever the cause, it's a significant deployment because anyone who can hijack Amazon cloud traffic has the ability to carry out all kinds of nefarious actions. I've got a 110% agree with Kevin Beaumont on this deal. This was not... they weren't going after that little bit of money. I mean, 150 grand, that's good money for me. It's good money for you. It might be great money for a small business. But But for an attack like this, that pays one hacker maybe. I guess my point being, they weren't doing it for the cash. They were doing it for the practice. They were doing it to work out kinks and to work out issues in the process, because when they do this for real, it's going to have huge implications across the board. In our second article, it's titled AWS Traffic Hijack, Users Sent to Phishing Site in 2-Hour Cryptocurrency Heist. It was originally published by ZDNet. I like ZDNet. They're pretty reputable, and they usually have some pretty good articles that are very accurate. It was written by Liam Tung, April 25th, which is today, at 10:59 GMT or 3:59 Pacific time. Attackers on Tuesday pulled off a complex attack using kinks in core internet infrastructure that caused users of an Ethereum wallet developer's website to be redirected to a phishing site. Users of myetherwallet.com lost around $150,000 to the attackers after failing to take heed of the HTTPS browser warning that the site they'd been directed to was using a self-signed digital certificate. MyEtherWallet.com developers said in a statement on Reddit that a number of domain name servers were hijacked at 12 p.m. UTC to point users to a phishing site hosted on a Russian IP address. The redirects occurred for about 2 hours. Anyone who logged into their account would have had their credentials compromised. Also, browsers already signed in would have transmitted login information via browser cookies. Both outcomes give the attackers a chance to log into the real site and steal Ethereum. Cloudflare described the incident as a BGP, or Border Gateway Protocol, leak that allowed the attackers to wrongly announce protocol IP space owned by Amazon's Route 53 managed DNS service, which MyEtherWallet.com uses. BGP maintains a table of available IP networks and finds the most efficient routes for the internet traffic. ISPs announce IP addresses to other networks they peer with. During the attack, eNet Inc., an Ohio-based IP service provider, was wrongly announcing parts of AWS's IP space to its peers, forwarded them to internet backbone provider Hurricane Electric, which in turn affected Cloudflare's DNS directory resolver. During the 2-hour leak, the servers on the IP range only responded to queries for the MyEthernetWallet.com, explained Cloudflare engineer Lewis Points. Any DNS resolver that was asked for names handled by Route 53 would ask the authoritative servers that had been taken over by the BGP leak. This poisoned DNS resolvers whose routers had accepted the route. Because of this state of affairs, anyone using a poisoned DNS resolver, including Cloudflare's own DNS resolver, would have returned IP addresses owned by a Russian provider rather than Amazon's IP addresses. Cloudflare's DNS resolver 1.1.1.1 was affected in Chicago, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Brisbane, Cebu, Bangkok, Auckland, Muscat, Djibouti, and Manila, with the rest of the world working normally. Amazon has issued a statement and there's a link to that statement, that an upstream ISP was compromised, not AWS or Amazon Route 53 itself. Neither AWS nor Amazon Route 53 were hacked or compromised. An upstream internet service provider was compromised by a malicious actor who then used that provider to announce a subset of Route 53 IP addresses to other networks with whom the ISP was peered, Amazon said. These peered networks, unaware of this issue, accepted these announcements and incorrectly directed a small percentage of traffic for a single customer's domain to the malicious copy of that domain. Security expert Kevin Beaumont noted that attackers were well resourced, controlling a wallet that currently had nearly 16 million in Ethereum. The incident also highlighted well-known weaknesses in core internet infrastructure. Mounting an attack of this scale requires access to BGP routers at major ISPs and real computing resource to deal with so much DNS traffic. It seems unlikely MyEtherWallet.com was the only target when they had such levels of access, he wrote. The security vulnerabilities in BGP and DNS are well known and have been attacked before. This is the largest scale attack I have seen, which combines both, and it underscores the fragility of internet security. It also highlights how almost nobody noticed until the attack stopped. There is a blind spot. All right. That pretty much summed up the same thing, that the previous article said. This is unbelievable in a way. This could be, and if they had hit someone other than MyEtherWallet.com, would have most likely been a very catastrophic event. This is the type of attack that very well could start wars, bring down nations. It's that serious. And the final article says hackers made off with about 152,000 worth of Ether on Tuesday in an attack that exploited weaknesses in the internet's infrastructure to steal users' crypto wallet keys. The attackers did so by exploiting a weakness in DNS servers serving MyEtherWallet, a cryptocurrency exchange. DNS is a service that connects domain names like MyEtherWallet.com to whatever IP address it's hosted on. This is not due to a lack of security on the MyEtherWallet platform. It is due to hackers finding vulnerabilities in public-facing DNS servers, the company wrote in a Reddit post. Hijackers hijacked the DNS servers around noon UTC, the company said, and redirected user traffic to a replica of MyEtherWallet.com hosted on a Russian server. The actual exploit was through the Border Gateway Protocol, explained security researcher Kevin Beaumont. We sure hear Kevin Beaumont's name a lot. BGP is a system that actually directs traffic to a website. MyEtherWallet noted in the Reddit post that because users were rerouted to a phishing website, they likely clicked through a pop-up message warning them that the site they were visiting did not have a proper SSL certificate. It's not clear yet the root cause of the attack. but the attackers appear to have rerouted IP addresses operated by Amazon Web Services DNS service known as Route 53. DNS provider Cloudflare explained in a blog post, which is linked to off the site, about the incident that a BGP leak happens when a range of IP addresses is announced by an outside party, which could be a configuration mistake or done with malicious intent. In Tuesday's incident, a range of IP addresses belonging to AWS appears to have been rerouted via Internet Service Provider ENET. It's not clear how the fraudulent routes came to be announced by ENET. Neither AWS nor Amazon Route 53 were hacked or compromised, an AWS spokesperson said in a statement. An upstream internet service provider was compromised by a malicious actor who then used that provider to announce a subset to Route 53 IP addresses to other networks with whom the ISP was peered. These peered networks, unaware of the issue, accepted these announcements and incorrectly directed a small percentage of traffic for a single customer's domain to the malicious copy of the domain. In a report from Internet Intelligence at Internet Intel, the BGP hijack this morning affected Amazon DNS. ENET AS10297 of Columbus, Ohio, announced the following more specifics on Amazon routes from 11:05 to 13:03 UTC today. The networks that were rerouted were 205.251.192.0/24. And what /24 means, for those of you who are unfamiliar with that, it means that the entire subnet, or 255 IP addresses, were forwarded or were rerouted. The next subnet was 205.251.193.0/24. Once again, the entire range. 205.251.195, 205.251.197, and 205.251.199.0/24. So all in all, there were 5 subnets with 254 IP addresses, actually 255 IP addresses for each subnet that were routed to what appears to be the Russian website. The attackers reportedly redirected traffic for about 2 hours. In that time, they managed to steal 215 Ether, amounting to about 152,000 at the time. The hackers had millions of dollars worth of Ether in their crypto wallets before the attack started, according to Beaumont, suggesting they were well resourced for an operation of this scale. Beaumont notes that having that access, along with the ability to manage the scale of DNS traffic, requires great computing power. That suggests that the Ether trading site may not have been the only target. It seems unlikely MyEtherWallet.com was the only target when they had such levels of access, Beaumont writes. This article was originally posted on www.cyberscoop.com. Now, all I can really say here is wow. The scale and the scope of cyber attacks are growing exponentially to the point where, every attack you're going to have to look at and decide whether it was a hacker or a nation state that is pulling off this attack, because this very attack could be used to defund an entire country, right? So I mean, let's say for example, South Korea wanted to defund North Korea. They've got the hacking ability to do that. They could literally hack in, using a similar tactic and withdraw money directly from North Korea's banking system. It would be a bit more complicated than this. It would be a bit different than this, but the concept is available, and this is proof. The same thing could happen right here in the United States. The same thing, a similar tactic could be used by the United States against one of our foes or one of our enemies. And I'm sure at some point it has been used to either win wars or stop insurgencies and things like that. With the popularity of cryptocurrency today, there are a lot of nefarious actors, to use one of the words that was used here in this very article. There are a lot of nefarious actors, bad guys, who invest in cryptocurrencies because cryptocurrencies aren't traced by a banking system like regular money, right? So cryptocurrencies depend on accounting through themselves, essentially, and other cryptocurrencies. So the regulations and the ability for a government to be able to shut down accounting for a particular agency or faction is not as likely to happen with a cryptocurrency as it is with a standard currency like the U.S. dollar or the pound or the euro. Those things are all heavily regulated, which is a great reason for these guys to steal cryptocurrency, because the likelihood of getting caught is a lot smaller, for one thing, and for another, the regulatory commissions of nation states or groups of nation states, they're not quite the same for cryptocurrencies as they are for true traditional currencies. It's not to say that it's not a crime to do it, because it is, and it's unethical and immoral and all of those things. I mean, there's a ton of different ways we could look at it and say it was bad, but what we're looking at here is the ability to steal enough money to either put your enemy out of commission or to fund your ability to defeat a different enemy. And with this being, a Russian-led attack, it just makes me wonder, if it were Chinese, if it were, being Russian, with all the things going on in the world with the different wars and military actions, especially around Syria, where the United States and our allies are having, kind of pissing contests with Russia and a few other countries. Is this a warning from them that they may attempt to do this on a global level, on a traditional type of currency? It becomes a whole new ball game if they do that. But could this be sponsored by the state? We know that the Chinese have an entire facility, an unreal facility that is got fiber optics cables and just high-rise buildings essentially full of hackers who are doing just this very thing. They're writing everything from basic code to some of the most advanced code that you've ever seen. For the very act of hacking corporations, hacking bank accounts, hacking cryptocurrency accounts, hacking other countries, for cyber warfare. My point is that cyber warfare is real. It's probably going on more than traditional warfare is, probably substantially more. I know in the U.S. alone, in the last 10 years, the cyber command has grown like 1,000%. I don't have the exact numbers. I could look it up and get it for you. But I know they've went from like 1,500 troops to like 68,000 troops in less than 10 years. So cyber warfare is real. Cyber warfare is something that we as civilians, as bystanders, need to be prepared for. Is a little unified threat management box going to stop that? Maybe. It may deter it a little bit. It's probably not going to stop it, but most likely these nation states or these cyber warfare attacks are not going to come after your small business with 5 or 6 or 10 employees. So you're not really going to have to worry about that a whole lot. But on the other hand, the way that a lot of malware works, that's what you need it for, because malware is kind of in a lot of cases, it's kind of a throw it at the wall and see what sticks kind of process. So essentially, with malware, if you take your average hacker who's throwing out malware, they're just basically taking subnets and they're shooting the malware out to the subnets, and then whatever they gain access to comes back to their command and control center, and then they go from there and decide whether or not they're going to, infiltrate and actually try to steal anything from that person that was infiltrated, or that company that was infiltrated. So anyway, we're sitting at 54 minutes right now before the intro and outro are tagged on. So what I want to say is thank you for listening. This has been kind of a long one, but I think it's well worth the time that we took to go over this. I think it's important that we know about these kinds of attacks, even though it's probably not a major attack. It was definitely a major practice run. and it's something, should you be afraid? Not necessarily. If you're smart, you can avoid being affected by stuff like this. If you're not smart, then you just lost all your Ether coins, and you're probably pretty pissed off. I know I would be. If it throws out a certificate being bad at you, warning, don't go there. Stay home. Just click away from the page. Just avoid it. Check back the next day or something, or call them. If you are going to a website and it's a common website and you use a service from that website and you're getting those sorts of things, pick up the phone. I know it's unorthodox. I know it's old school. And I know that it's not popular, and people don't do those things anymore because talking to people directly is abhorrent. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. But you know what? When you're talking to a real person that you know where you've called, it's probably safer than clicking OK on that certificate. And if you had done that before you clicked OK, yesterday, then you would still have your Ether coins and probably a substantial amount of money. Anyway, so with that being said, I will bid you adieu. Thanks for listening. We really enjoy you. We're glad that you come and you listen to what we have to say. And as always, we'll see you down the road. Hey, thanks for listening to the Tony DeGonia podcast. Just a couple of things to remember. You can find us on our website at tonydegonia.com/podcast. On LinkedIn at linkedin.com/n/Tony DeGonia. On Twitter at Tony DeGonia. On Facebook.com/Tony DeGonia SE. You can also catch all of our episodes on iTunes, Google Play, and our website, of course, Podbean.com, Blueberry.com, and most other mainstream podcast outlets. And remember our mantra, be awesome because you are awesome. Thanks for listening. Hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll see you down the road.